Hello Slashies and welcome to Slash, a horror podcast where we talk about the scares, the screams and the spooky stuff. My name is Grace.
And my name is Wouter. And today we are once again joined by a lovely guest host. Please introduce yourself once again to our lovely audience.
Hi, my name is Beau and I'm here yet again.
Yay!
So thank you for being on the show once again, Beau. We have Beau on in our episode on The Green Knight. But actually we had planned this episode way before that, but we just never got around to it. Because today we'll be reviewing not one, but two films of the same franchise, namely Sinister 1 and, in a moment, Sinister 2. And what we're going to do, we've already watched Sinister 1 a little bit ago. We're going to discuss that first. And then we're going to watch Sinister 2 because neither Grace nor Beau have seen it. I have, but I don't mind rewatching it. And then we're going to discuss that one. But without further ado, Grace, would you grace us with the synopsis of the first Sinister?
Of course, thank you. So Sinister is a 2012 supernatural horror film directed and co-written by Scott Derrickson. The film follows true crime novelist Alison Oswald, portrayed by Ethan Hawke, as he convinces his unsuspecting wife Tracy and their children Trevor and Ashley to move into an infamous murder house. While researching the gruesome death of the previous owners, Alison finds a box of home videos in the house's attic, which contain footage of several families being murdered by an unseen cameraman. Alison also notices a mysterious symbol and shadowy figure, which he later connects to the demonic child eater Bughuul. Strange things begin to occur in the house, and Alison seemingly loses his grip on reality. His daughter Ashley, moreover, displays disturbing behavior as she is seen drawing scenes from the home videos and talking to her imaginary friends Mr. Boogie, a nickname for Bughuul, and Stephanie, the missing child from the most recent murder. Things escalate when Alison has a vision of the missing children and Bughuul emerging from the movie projector. In an attempt to save his family, Alison decides to move back into his old home. Ironically, this completes the ritual for summoning Bughuul, and Alison and his family are murdered by the possessed Ashley, before the helpful deputy so-and-so can warn them.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Man, I love Sinister.
It's so good.
Yeah, I have a very fond spot in my heart for Sinister. Because the first time I saw it, I was like 17, I want to say, 16 or 17. And I finished watching it when I was 20. I stopped halfway through. We were with the scouts, and then we decided, fuck this is way too scary. And then 3 years later, in broad daylight, I watched the end of it by myself for the first time. That was the impression it left on me the first time.
The first time I watched it was with you guys, and there was a lot of memeing going on, so I don't think I got the full scary, you're in cinema and it's dark and no one is talking vibe, but I still really liked it. I think it's a really solid film, a really just good all-American horror film.
Yeah, I suppose you could put it like that. The first time I watched it, I was like 12 with a few friends at night watching it.
Dang.
It was so scary, and I remember the film ending with, as Grace already told you guys, it does not have a happy ending. And then just the film ended, and it was pitch dark, and somebody had to turn off like the laptop that we were watching it on. And I just remember sitting there for 5 minutes, not daring to move to turn it off. But eventually I got the courage to do it, and then turned on all the lights in the house. Yeah.
And then you have to do that power walk to like the light switch, like.
I was so fast. Yeah, it's a good old scary film. Yeah.
It's really polished, I feel like it just there's no bullshit, just like knows its premise and sticks to it. I always really appreciate that in a film.
Yeah. I struggle a little bit writing the synopsis because a lot happens and a lot feels really important when you're watching it, but really it's quite a simple story really, where most of the time you're just watching Alison discover the plot of the film as it is unfolding.
Yeah.
And it's done in a really nice way. The home videos are really terrifying.
It's definitely the best part of the film. Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And also I really like that they made it actually made it on 8mm, right? That's what it is?
Yeah.
8mm films. Yeah, I think they all, at least for the first one, they did that for real. They filmed everything on such a camera, and then the reels are actually the ones you see in the film.
I feel like it does feel like real home videos, and that's so powerful, because that's actually like, it should be like, they've got these titles of a family holiday, like mowing the lawn, I believe, sleepy time, but they're so terrifying.
Yeah, I love that they sprinkle those little hints in there that you could know that it's a kid filming it, because the angle is always a little weird. And I think, especially in sleepy time, I think they pass a mirror at some point, and then you don't see the cameraman, and you think, oh, that's supernatural, but they're too short, so they pass under. I think that's what happens.
Right, that's really good. And we were talking about that. It's really nice that this film just really embraces its premise and just sticks to it, because they could have had like 8 billion explanations why Bughuul is doing this and why these children are being targeted, and it's all just very clean. It's just, there's a demon, his thing is eating children, and this is the way that he gets them, and you complete the ritual as soon as you move house.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting, as we were saying before, because that's kind of the main issue we always have with people in horror films. Like, why aren't you just leaving this haunted house?
Yeah. It definitely plays with your expectations of, and also like the things that you want the characters to do. The first thing you want them to do is just run. Like, why aren't you leaving this situation that you're in? But then the second that the family does so, I think that's the second the audience realizes, like, wait, this is, no, please stop, you're going to die.
So good.
Yeah.
And I really like that they made the protagonist a true crime novelist. That actually explains why he, first of all, actually picked a murder house, like, knowingly. Second, that he is, like, wants to try to investigate this gruesome murder for as long as he can.
Definitely, yeah. But that is also, that sort of spells his own doom, because like the whole thing is that not necessarily investigating Bughuul, but Bughuul lives in images. I think that's the shtick that they go for. So every time he accesses like photos and videos, he just opens more gateways for Bughuul to influence the house, which I think is fun.
And get his children.
Yeah. Yeah, because we didn't really make that explicit. Like the idea is that he targets the youngest of the family because they are the most innocent. Then he makes them murder their own family so they lose that innocence, I guess, and then he can feed on that. That's the thing, and then he takes them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think probably my least favorite thing about the film is Bughuul, as in the way he looks, because he does look like he's in Slipknot.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Doesn't help that he's called Mr. Boogie. But yeah, that's just a creative direction they've chosen, and we'll just have to live with that. But I do like that, even though he's a little silly because of all of that, he isn't the real killer. Like, the real killer is the children, and that's really creepy.
Definitely, yeah. I like that in this film he's mostly a presence. He's not very physically there. Like, he does one or two moments where he pops out of the screen to jump scare Ellison and me. But apart from that, he is only really in the videos and like in visions, and he's not really. And I like that he is a force. He's sort of an evil force, but he's not really a character, and I really appreciate that.
I also think there's only a few, maybe one or two cheapish jump scares where clearly it's scary for the audience and not so much for the characters. I think almost all of them are because the main character is actually frightened for some reason.
Definitely, yeah.
Which makes sense because he's trying to scare him out of the house, so he moves away. The only sequence I didn't like, talking about jump scares that are for the audience, is when Ellison is walking through his house with a baseball bat, like looking for intruders. And then these ghost kids keep popping up behind him, like walking past him in the hallway and him, like popping their heads out of the darkness behind him so he doesn't see them. And that's purely for the audience, and I thought that was kind of lame.
I think it's also not. While we're being critical, I don't necessarily understand the ghost children. Like, why did they have to pop up? Because indeed, Allison doesn't see them, or like he does eventually in the attic.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's just. Yeah, I don't know. It didn't need it because they're not the one doing all this to the house. It's his own daughter.
Yeah, I think they make it a little more explicit in the second film, but then it becomes a little weird. But we'll get to that when we get to that one. But the intent is that the children help Bughuul sort of groom the new child. Sort of, you can be our little play friend, and then they become sort of play friends for the new child. I think that's the intent. But then there's no reason why they would go and fuck with Allison.
Yeah, exactly.
Except for go bump in the night and then make him leave his house sooner.
Yeah.
But if he's not seeing it, then that doesn't make sense.
No.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times it's just stronger. Like if you have someone like walk down a hallway and you make this really long, dark hallway and nothing is happening, but you just know that any fucking minute now something is going to happen. That can be so much more tense than just seeing ghost children running around. Because like we've all seen ghost children.
Yeah.
I love the jump scare when Allison prints out a screenshot of the family hanging out video of Bughuul standing in the bushes, and then he holds it up to the window to sort of see, oh, that's that bush up there, and then he moves it, and then he's actually there, and that was so fucking good.
That's so good.
I love moments like that where they sort of show, oh, this is how Bughuul can enter reality. That was really effective for me.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the kill tapes a little bit, because they're probably the selling point of the film. Like that's what Sinister is known for. Clearly, I think if you ask anybody who knows Sinister, they'll talk about the kill films.
Yeah.
Why don't we all like say our favorite one and why?
Oof. Okay.
My favorite is Family Barbecue.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I love because the soundtrack is the best. Like that number is so creepy. Because it goes from this sort of semi-idyllic sort of chill family having fun by the park, which also see filmed, and then it cuts to this sort of weird chanting, moaning, and these sort of chirping sounds. And just I love the visual of like the car being like chained down and then being like taped down in the car. And then as soon as they light the car on fire, it actually starts like shaking because the people inside are thrashing around. I thought that was just haunting. It's absolutely terrifying. That's my favorite, Family Barbecue, because it's not that graphic. Like you don't see any of the gore. Like the gore is actually quite minimal in the film. I think the goriest one is Sleepy Time. But it's so visually disturbing and so jarring to watch that it's so effective for me.
I think mine would be, what is it? Lawnmower Time.
Lawn work.
Same, I was gonna say.
Yeah, just because that one, like you see the freaking lawnmower and you know what's gonna come.
Yeah.
That's just really good. Like you're like, oh no, it's not actually gonna be that. It's not actually gonna be like, oh god, it is exactly what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I think that's also the one that you can kind of feel the most. Like you can envision how it would be to lie there with the lawnmower, because we've all mowed the lawn once in a while. You'll be like, oh, what if my like toe is between this wouldn't be nice.
Terrifying.
Like you can almost picture it. It's horrifying.
Yeah. And also from the perspective of the family, like just imagine you're lying there you don't actually see anything, like in the grass with a bag over you, and you just hear the fucking lawnmower approaching, you know. Yeah, it's so good. I also really like Pool Party, because that one it's quite subdued, like in terms of gore, but it's the horror of just being tied down and drowning in a pool, you know, in itself is really scary. But I also like that because that is, from what I gather from the internet, 100% practical. Like they actually tied down and weighed down these people to these beds, and then out of frame there's divers who feed them oxygen when they need it.
That's so cool.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
We want you to be an extra in this film.
Oh, cool, yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna get tied up on the bed.
Cool, okay.
Yeah, we're gonna just, dip you into the water, and then you can trash around a bit.
But I'm not actually tied.
Well, yes, you are.
Yeah. No.
In actual water, yeah.
And Mr. Boogie is actually also really there as well. Like you see him standing in the water. That's actually the actor who is got weighed down shoes, and he's actually just standing on the bottom of the pool.
That's
cool.
so cool.
Yeah. So, and I really appreciate that they clearly went like the extra mile to make it look as real and as scary. But of course, there's limits, you know, when like how much you can quote unquote torture your cast. But I always like when they go the extra mile to make it look as real as possible. That's what I really appreciate about the Saw movies as well. Like they make it look like the most real it can be.
Yeah, I feel like that ties in with the 8mm films as well. Just authenticity.
Yeah. We were talking about, I guess the characters a bit before this, and we were talking about Tracy in particular. So she's quite the sort of like, I guess, typical horror film mom, where like her whole character is just, I am the mom, I am the wife, and like being really upset about the fact that they're living in this murder house. And the film kind of takes Allison's side in this, where she is kind of framed as like being a bit like of a nag, even though like she is absolutely 100% right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be living in a murder house.
No.
Especially not if my husband wouldn't have told me.
No.
Yeah. I like that though.
I mean, I would be kind of down for a murder house, but that's...
Yeah, for a tour, not to live in it.
Right.
People die everywhere.
Fair enough, yeah.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Nice housewarming next time for you
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
I think of the two of us, I am more likely to buy the birdhouse in secret.
Yeah.
Like, we've got a
for
real
certain.
good deal. Don't look under the carpet.
Oh no.
Good luck.
Lost my train of thought now. I like that Allison is flawed in that way though. I like that he's not the hero or whatever. He's
quite unlikable.
He's quite unlikable. He's selfish. Like he puts his work as the crime writer above the safety of his family and the safety of other people, because there's many opportunities for him to take this to the police through deputy so and so.
Even the fact that, you know, the deputy is quite like helpful and really like explicitly tries to help Allison out, and he doesn't even bother to learn his name.
Yeah, definitely, because that's the kind of the joke, he has him listed as deputy so and so, like in his phone or whatever. I will say, like, no shade to the actor, James Ransone, but I did feel the first time watching it that Deputy So-and-so was a bit weirdly directed, because he is supposed to be a big fan of Allison's, like he asked him to sign his book and whatever. And I feel like the film kind of plays it off as like weird and creepy a little bit, like that's sort of vibe what I got from it the first time. And to the extent that it felt to me that he was involved with the murder somehow. Like that's the vibe I got from him the first time. And then the second time it wasn't as bad, but I felt like that was a bit a weird choice by the filmmakers.
I think it's because you are seeing him through Allison's eyes, and Allison finds the deputy really off-putting.
Fair, yeah.
I think it's also just a film trying to put red herrings everywhere, because the plot twist of the children being the one responsible for the murders is, I mean, you can see it coming, but it's still quite well done. But the film certainly does try to put you off. Maybe so it might have been a conscious decision, but I don't know.
Yeah. If it is a conscious decision, I didn't like it very much.
Yeah, and that's fair.
Yeah.
And he's a good actor, so I don't think it's just that, you know.
No, exactly. Speaking of red herrings, though, like this film is red herring city at times, because they also try to shoehorn in the possibility that Trevor is the one who gets possessed, because he has this stupid night terror problem.
Which isn't stupid if it's something that you actually struggle with, but it's definitely a plot device in the film.
Yeah.
Because they literally the first night they're there, he wakes up in a box and starts screaming because he has night terrors, and then you're like, "Oh, this child is clearly possessed." Like, no, this is just one of his night terrors, and then it happens another time. But because they established that he has it more often, there's no reason to believe it's weird. So why put it in there?
Well, they are kind of like, oh, is it getting worse? And he never had them like this much or this close together or something. So they do kind of play with that. But yeah, I agree. You kind of feel like, okay, if he has night terrors, then this is probably a red herring.
Yeah, and also I think because it's so weird. Like, okay, so what if they now occur more frequently? That didn't have anything to do with Mr. Boogie, because that would have been the other child, Ashley. So why did Trevor have more night terrors?
Yeah. No one
doesn't
knows.
make any sense.
For us, for the
Yeah,
audience.
definitely. Yeah.
No, and that's kind of a shame because this film is clearly very secure in its premise and it's fairly tightly written around the premise, so it doesn't need red herrings for the twist to work.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was sold, I was sold regardless of how many red herrings were in there.
I guess it works because then it draws the attention away from Ashley.
Yeah.
Also, it draws Alison and Tracy's attention to Trevor and away from Ashley.
Yeah, that's
which then opens her up for Bughuul. So perhaps Bughuul is giving Trevor nightmares, so his parents are really focusing on him. But that is never addressed in the film. But
no, and it doesn't need to. But it's nice that if you frame it that way, it's nice the implication is there.
Yeah.
And that's the fun of this film. I think it is, and that's what's sinister about it. You don't know how much your family's being influenced until it's way too late.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really excited to see the sequel, especially because the main character is then Deputy so-and-so, right?
Yeah, because the Oswald family's dead.
And I'm really interested to see how they're going to evolve this premise.
Yeah, because we already know the twist. That's the
Yeah.
thing. So now we're going to see how they're going to run with it. So we'll be back in, for us, 1.5 hours. For you, a few seconds.
Yes.
See you in a bit.
Welcome back, Slashies.
And I'm Wouter. We just got back, I guess, from the couch. We watched Sinister 2.
Mm-hmm.
I am kind of at a loss for words.
Shall I just get into
the
the synopsis?
Yes, go for it.
Fucking synopsis. Please, thank you.
Okay. Sinister 2 is the 2015 sequel to Sinister. It's directed by Kieran Foy and co-written by Scott Derrickson and C. Robert Cargill. The film follows James Ranson, who reprises the role of Deputy So-and-so as he tries to end the cycle of Bughuul's victims. On a trip to burn down the final house, he encounters Courtney and her young sons Dylan and Zachary, who are both courted by the children of Bughuul. Deputy becomes romantically involved with Courtney as he tries to save the family from the demon, but he proves unsuccessful. After Courtney's abusive husband forces her and her children to move back in with him, Zachary, the aggressive twin, tries to kill his family by stringing them up like scarecrows and burning them alive one by one. Deputy manages to stop Zachary before he can hurt Dylan and Courtney, and Zachary and the ghost children chase them with the camera and a sickle. Deputy knocks the camera out of Zachary's hands, which somehow foils all of Bughuul's plans. The demon takes Zachary and sets the house aflame, while Courtney, Dylan and Deputy watch from outside. Later, Deputy gathers his research material from his motel, and the radio begins to play a message that allows Bughuul to manifest.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I suppose that's the movie.
I think this is the only one where I really wasn't able to give like a very objective synopsis.
No.
Yeah.
Because the story is so inherently nonsensical.
Yeah.
That it's impossible to give an objective synopsis, I think.
Really nothing happens in this film.
No.
Because it starts with this idea that we're going to follow Deputy, who is on this mission to stop the cycle. And he has apparently burned down all these houses and has like tracked down where everyone moved. Because of course that's the trouble with the whole Bughuul curse, that people kind of take it with them all across the country and other places. But then you end up with Courtney, Dylan and Zachary, who, they're not in the Oswald house. We don't know how much time really has passed in between those two events. So it feels very disconnected from the first story. But at the same time, we are following a character from the first story. So it really already feels very messy from the beginning.
Yeah, and it keeps referencing it over and over again, like as well. And as soon as you start thinking about the timeline, like how much time it's been, it becomes a little fuzzy. Because if this is not the Oswald house, which it isn't, and say this happened a year ago, like that's I think the ballpark they're kind of going for. I want to say, like
Yeah,
a
I
year.
think so.
That means that somebody has had to move into the Oswald house, then move out soon, right? And of course that's sort of the gist. Then somebody has to move into that other house, etc., etc., etc. So either that has to have moved really fast for it to arrive at this house, or there has to be so fucking many of them because they all like move within a week. Like there must be so many mass murders in America if this like happens every other week. Like so many families must have died in the meantime.
Yeah.
This must be. Why is this not investigated more?
Yeah, this is just one deputy who's like invested. No one else cares.
No.
Yeah, seemingly unrelated cold cases with the exact same symbol everywhere. Why are the feds not involved?
It also really bothers me that he doesn't have a name. I get that it was a joke from the first film, but it kind of proves what a flat character it really is. And all the characters are like that, really.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not the actor's fault. Like, they're clearly all trying to do the most with what they have, but he's just the person investigating, and that's basically all you can say about the character. He's kind of dorky, I guess.
And he's a badass when he needs to be. Mm-hmm. And the mom is a mom.
Yeah.
Again,
exactly. Again, with even more so.
The children are really weirdly characterized because you have Dylan, who is he's just too nice.
He didn't even dare to kill a spider.
No, he was too nice for Bughuul, even though he's like trying to corrupt innocence. He was just too nice.
Yeah, he's not good. He's not bad.
He's just nice.
Yeah.
And then Zachary was like, man, excited he finally got to kill somebody.
Yeah, this dude has been plotting murder even before Bughuul became a thing.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Which is really weird because that implies that all these children were basically just waiting for this demon to come and be like, it's okay to kill your family. I'll send the rats.
Yeah.
The rats.
The fucking rats, yeah. And man.
And nothing happens really. He starts to investigate and then he doesn't make any progress really. The whole thing with Bughuul and the kids is just like, which one is he gonna corrupt? Which feels really, really irrelevant for the outcome anyway.
Yeah.
Because we're not that invested in the characters that I was really bothered. Like, oh no, I hope Dylan doesn't get possessed. Like, I don't freaking care. Is that really what's at stake here? Aren't we just trying to stop Bughuul in general?
There's just too much that this film is trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it succeeds at none of them. So it actually does nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I still don't understand. Because there's this thing of, okay, if you live inside the house, you start seeing Bughuul everywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you look at the photos and stuff. Then this deputy is getting haunted by Bughuul. But, like, there's no outcome. It's just there for the jump scares.
Yeah.
Why is Bughuul invested in the sheriff guy when really he wants the children to murder their family? I don't understand.
No, because it's not like the sheriff investigating Bughuul is bad for him. It shouldn't be.
It doesn't matter. He's a demon. Like, he
Yeah.
can do whatever he wants.
Yeah, and I also hate there is this character in a previous movie, Dr. Jonas, who they also kind of lampshade in the film for not being in this film. And if anybody has investigated Bughuul more than anybody, it's Dr. Jonas.
Yeah.
And he's not targeted. And then in this film, he's mysteriously disappeared. So they imply that he has been targeted, which I find a really lazy cop-out. But it doesn't make any... Yeah, why? There's no reason why investigating Bughuul should be dangerous to you.
No.
Unless
you are going to live there.
Yeah, and you have kids.
Yeah. We were talking about it earlier, and I think it could have been interesting if they did go in the direction that Deputy was being targeted by Bughuul specifically because, you know, Bughuul he just targets the youngest most recent inhabitant of the house. And for some reason, since there was no, like, if the house immediately burned down after what paint job? What is the videotape called?
House painting.
House painting. It was really burned down afterwards. Then really only deputy was like a candidate, and then it could have been like, well, he targets the youngest, so usually that's children. But you know, like, if you're the only person there, then you're automatically the youngest.
Yeah.
And then it could have been a cool twist that he's trying to get rid of this curse, but actually everywhere he goes, he brings it with him.
Yeah.
And it would have been a bit of a stretch, but I wouldn't have minded if they went for it. Like, they make such a big thing of it that he was arrested for something implied to be the previous murders, that they tried to pin that on him. And it's made to be such a big deal that he is innocent, you know? And it would have been kind of cheap if they used that as an excuse. But it would have been, I don't know, it would have worked better than what we got now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't like the kids. Like, I mean, okay. I don't mind using kid actors, you know, but it's a risk because they're trying their best, but it's not great, you know. So they all felt really flat because they were trying to be scary, but they were just kind of being assholes to Dylan. Like, this film is just people being mean to Dylan.
Yeah.
Nothing else.
Honestly, I do really blame the writing as well, because, you know, we didn't really like Milo, because Milo was just like this really smug kid who's the whole time like, I made the best video. But that's writing, you know. I don't think like a different actor would have really made that character shine.
No, true, yeah. Yeah, and also the like a big bother with that, of course, is that the kids are even there. Because that brings up so many more questions, because now it's clearly the kids recruiting Dylan or Zach, I don't know. And it brings up so many questions like, okay, but...
Why aren't they fun?
Why aren't they fun? Like, they shouldn't be sort of enticing. What does Bughuul do? Like, if
he's just there.
He's just there, but does he need to be if he just has the kids jobbing it up for him? Like, he could just be somewhere else doing like he can if he can manage this, right? He can just do one kid per house, and he can do 7 houses at a time.
Yeah.
How did Bughuul start when he had 0 children? Did he dress up like a child and it's like, hey, come draw pictures of dead people with me? You know.
I don't know.
Yeah, you know, it's just this film tries to give more depth to whatever the Bughuul myth is, but just makes it more complicated than it needs to be.
Yeah.
And I just want to go back to the radio thing because I just don't understand. At some point in the film, this other sheriff, I think, calls in the deputy saying that he found more evidence about the murders and them being related, and then saying that he found this radio wave with sound of one of the murders instead of the videotapes that we usually get.
Yeah.
And that's just it. And then there's just nothing more about this radio except for the last scene in which it's used to scare us, the audience.
Yeah.
But then I just don't understand, why is radio waves a thing? And if that is a thing, then it makes sense that these stories are being told through different mediums. But then why is the camera still relevant? Like, why can't it be a modern camera? It just doesn't make any sense.
No.
It didn't have to be there.
No, it's weird. And also, like, they're gonna argue, oh, they needed to use a radio because it was, like, the 70s, I think it was. But,
I think so.
Yeah.
But the first kill film in the first movie, Family Barbecue, I think, like, chronologically, is from the 60s.
Yeah, but this was in Norway.
Oh yeah, they didn't have cameras in Norway before that time. No, true, yeah. Yeah.
Only America has cameras.
Only America has cameras, yeah. And of course they use the most cutting edge American technology to film these.
16 millimeters.
16 millimeters, twice as many millimeters. That's why it's not 8 anymore. It's Sinister 2, so they have to use twice as many millimeters.
No. Disagree.
Okay.
Yeah, so
let's talk about what we do like, which is Christmas morning.
Christmas morning.
That was really good.
Yeah.
I like Christmas morning.
Good tape.
Yeah.
So that is one of the home videos, and you see a kid, I guess, burying their parents alive in the snow.
Yeah.
So they freeze to death. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're tied up with Christmas lights.
And it's really creepy because this sort of Christmas lullaby plays over it, and you can see their faces all the way through, you know, you see the air escaping like in fumes from their mouth, and you can see the eyes moving even though they're like nearly frozen solid, and that was really creepy. And that one really kept the charm from the first film, whereas some of the others didn't. Because I didn't like it, but I appreciated that the first one did all the kills with stuff you could find around the house, you know, just a knife, sunbeds,
A
a lawnmower, you know, a tree next to your house and some rope, you know, the car. And with some of the other ones, and this is just Christmas lights and a shovel, you know, but with some of the other ones, like, these people had to get out on a fucking river with gators, and they needed a boat, and they needed the rope to string them up across the gate. It was just way too much of a hassle. I want my paranormal kill films to be believable.
I think it's too much of a hassle, but it's also not something a child would come up with.
No.
Like, oh yes, I know that the gators are here at this specific time, so I'm just gonna tie up my family above the river, which is not even at the house, so it doesn't make any sense.
No. That's a good point. Yeah.
Also, maybe that's because we're coming at it from like a Dutch perspective, but like being strung up and eaten by an alligator is like nowhere near like one of my fears.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't enjoy it, but you know, it's not something. If you were like describe something creepy, I would never describe that because it's just not something that would occur to me when like drowning or freezing to death is like I think a very primal fear that everyone can relate to.
Yeah.
This was just too much.
Mm-hmm.
But it was still more believable than the Sunday service.
Jeez.
Right, I forgot that one existed for a moment.
Yeah, bless you.
Yeah, because that's supposed to be the big one. That's clearly the moment the movie thinks, this is real fucking good. This is some tasty murder we got going here.
That's the murder of the house that they live in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which inexplicably has a church in its backyard, conveniently.
Just accept that.
Yeah, that's where my suspense of disbelief will go. Yeah, now, that's one Milo made, and okay, how the fuck am I gonna how are we gonna concisely explain this? He drugged his parents and his siblings because his father is the preacher, and they all drink the sacramental wine, and then
which was like bright green and no one noticed. Yes.
Yeah. And then he nailed them to the floor in sort of a pentagram shape, tied buckets to their stomachs. Then Bughuul shows up, like clearly in view, not like in the water or in the reflection of the window. No, just stands there, gesticates his hands, makes rats appear out of nowhere. Then they tie down the buckets with the rats in them, and then they put hot coals on the bucket so the rat has to dig its way out through the person's stomach, you know?
It takes so long.
It's like 2.5 minutes just...
Like I said, like at some point it's a tutorial.
It's just so inconsistent with all the other videos that we've seen in this film, but also the previous one.
Yeah.
And just why are there rats? Why is this a power that Bughuul has?
Yeah.
I guess very specific animal-related powers, which is snakes, scorpions, and dogs.
And rats now.
And rats. Why?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, and I was saying like earlier, like why don't do a dog thing? Like why not just like set them outside in a field, tie them to a pole, and then have them be mauled to death by a dog?
Yeah.
That's horrible.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And more realistic.
More realistic. That's a fear. That's a fear a lot of people have. A lot of people are scared of dogs.
Yeah.
Like I'm not scared of rats. Like probably of like the ones that do like eat other animals, but...
And I think even people that are scared of rats aren't scared of rats because they could end up in some weird situation where they have a bucket tied to the stomach and then a rat shows up. You know, they are afraid of rats just because rats can be kind of creepy.
Yeah.
So have you seen Suicide Squad yet?
The new one? No, I haven't.
There's a character in there who can summon rats, and one of the other characters is really afraid of rats. And there's this one scene where they have to like summon a lot of them, and they're just like, they basically have to walk over the other character to get to the place where they need to go.
No.
And they're not doing anything, they're just like crawling over the character, and that was so fucking creepy, and it was way more suspenseful and creepier than the whole Sunday service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why the one like kitchen remodel is more effective because I find electricity really scary. Like every
Yeah.
time I unplug a thing, I'm afraid I'll get a shock. So like afraid of getting an electric shock is very real. So yeah, really inconsistent with what plays in your fears and what doesn't.
And it's just there was just a lot in there that I just didn't like. That felt really uncreative, because we were talking about that, like one of the really big things of like the first film was that it really played with people's expectations of horror and of the genre. I felt like here it was so cliche, and it was all these characters felt like such stock characters. Like we had the really abusive ex-husband, and then we had who was only there to be horrible basically, and for us to think he deserved to be lit on fire.
Yeah.
And you had like the soft child, and then you had the aggressive child, and then you had the mom who was just a mom. Like there was nothing to these characters.
No. And then it also misses the point of what makes the previous film good, because I don't want to feel good that this father gets burned alive. I want to feel horrified that this seemingly innocent family are all horribly murdered and there's nothing they can do about it.
Yeah, by a person that they love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also the idea, like, if the child only knew what it was doing, it would be horrified.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think Ashley, wanted that, knew what she was doing. She was tricked into thinking it was like a game or something. She was possessed.
Brainwashed, like whatever.
Yeah. And
Zach just liked killing.
Yeah. All these kids were so proud of what they had done. Like, although they were so eager to show them the films. Like, why?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just missed everything that made the first film good. It took all the wrong parts.
Mm-hmm.
No, they didn't even take the wrong parts. Just took the skeleton, and then just dressed some bland flavoring over it.
It's so weird. They clearly try to, as you said, like go in depth on the story, but they just so didn't.
No.
I just don't understand what they were doing, what they were trying to do.
It was just also clearly a film that didn't need a sequel.
No.
So probably it was just a big success, and then the studio was like, okay, we want a sequel. Good luck.
Yeah.
Let me see how much the original box office.
I think it was quite a success, right?
Ooh, yeah, geez. Okay, the first one took 3 million to make, which is quite low budget actually.
Yeah.
And grossed 87.7 million.
Wow.
The next one, Sinister 2, 10 million to make, so more than thrice as much, and made 54 million.
If they brought out a Sinister 3, would you guys be interested in watching that?
I wouldn't be paying for it, I don't think.
Very fair.
Yeah. I don't know. What would they do? Like, because I think what happened with Sinister 3, what they'll go and try and do is what also kind of happens in the Saw franchise, is they're gonna try to one-up each other a little bit, like in terms of, especially with the kill films, like how creative or how weird they can get with the kill films. And then it misses the charm and the sort of simplicity that it had from the first one. So that's a possibility. I can imagine they're going to make a prequel.
Oh, right.
Yeah, because the cycle's supposedly broken, except for the radio, that is at the end of the film. So I wouldn't mind a prequel.
Or maybe a story about what happened to the guy that researched.
Jonas.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Jonas,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
one.
Wouldn't it be cool? Because the ham radio one is Norwegian, right? It's a Norwegian recording. What if the prequel just plays like in Norway?
That'd be pretty cool.
That would be cool.
Because there were like supposedly like lots of murders in Norway as well. Like that's sort of how it spread there.
Yeah.
So just have a Norwegian Sinister 3.
I thought you were saying, since there's so much murder like in Norway, like just regularly.
Yeah.
I mean, all those,
common knowledge.
Yeah, all those crime shows are all like Scandinavian. Norway is Scandinavian, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I'm still confused as to what Scandinavia is.
Yeah, because it's weird. Because it's not just
It's not Norway, Sweden, Finland.
No.
No, it's more than that, right?
No,
Or
one of
is it
them.
less?
One of them isn't in it, and Denmark is.
Yeah, I think it's Denmark,
Norway, Sweden,
and
Finland
Finland
isn't.
No.
Which doesn't make sense.
No.
Why?
Totally
Then why do you
doesn't.
live there?
Yeah. And then
Right.
I think a lot of Finnish people are wondering the same.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Also, every Irish person, when I said that I didn't live near Copenhagen, and that Denmark and the Netherlands were actually
what?
2 places.
Yeah.
Wait, no, but you live there.
Oh yeah, speaking of, hi to the one Finnish person who listens to us on Spotify.
Hello.
Hello, we love you. Thank you for listening.
Why do you live there?
Why do you live
Why
there?
you live there?
Comment now. Are you Scandinavian?
Where is Scandinavia? Let us know in the comments. Is there lots of murder in your neighborhood?
Leave a review of Norway.
Yeah. If the review is like Norway is shit, they know it's written by a Swede. Yeah, so I would love Norwegian Sinister.
I would want to watch it. Yeah, because I'm just curious right now. Because I enjoyed the film, not because it was a good film, but I did enjoy myself
We
making
had a
fun
good
of it.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was entertained. Yeah, this is one of those films that because it's like 2012, it's nearly like 10 years ago, you know? Like this is like one of those films that in a few years was massively popular and it'll be due to it for a revival, you know?
Ooh.
Like it'll become a classic in a few years, like when it's like 15 years old maybe,
Yeah.
and then it could be due for a revival.
I think enough people already see Sinister as like sort of a new classic horror film.
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna say that the first Sinister is one of my favorite horror films and just one of my favorite all-time films. I think it's just really tight. I still get scared when I think about it. Just a really effective, well-done film.
Yeah.
But I would definitely recommend it to people if they're trying to get into the genre.
Oh,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, just a classic film, as
Yeah.
you said.
Yeah, and it's not too overly gory. Like it's horrifying, but
It's not too artsy
no.
in a good way.
Yeah,
But it's artsy enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not like I probably wouldn't like I love Midsummer and like The Lighthouse, but I probably wouldn't recommend someone to start there.
No, that's
No.
fair.
Yeah, no. So
I wouldn't recommend Sinister 2, though.
No, not to anyone. Not even to people who like the first
No.
one.
Okay.
Pretty cool.
I've been Grace.
I've been Wouter.
I've been Beau.
And
you've
you've been
been
slashed twice.